My name is Jheri-Lynn and I am the Extension Program Specialist for 4-H Youth Development in District 5. And this evening, our session is going to be looking at 4-H family and community health projects. So just to give you a brief overview, there are 5 main disciplines or pillars in 4-H as far as how our projects are arranged. As I said, we're going to look at the fashion interior design and foods and nutrition projects that fall under family and community health this evening. So you can see we have a lot of different projects. Some are in agriculture and livestock, then of course family community health, natural resources, leadership and citizenship, and then STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. If you need information on different projects that are offered within 4-H, you can go to the 4-H website, and I have that up on the screen now. It's texas4h.tamu.edu, and you can either look under the volunteer slide tab or under the youth tab, and in both places the curriculum is listed there and the different projects. So one of the questions that our project leaders ask is, where do we find this information to get started in teaching these different projects? And so when you go under the volunteer tab and scroll down to curriculum and resources, there will be a whole list of different explore guides that are available for you to use to teach the lessons. So a project has 6 lessons at a minimum. And there's always an evaluation because we want to find out what the child that participated in that project has learned. And so that is also part of that book. And it also tells you within the book what supplies you'll need to teach those lessons and what the kids will need too to be successful. So there's goals that are outlined in the front of the Explore Guide. So that will help you in structuring your classes. The one I have up here is the one that is tied to Duds and Dazzle, which falls under our fashion interior design project. So these books are, they're not super long. They're lessons that can be completed in about 45 minutes to maybe a little bit over an hour. All the information that you need to conduct that lesson is provided right there for you. So don't be shy in looking at the Texas 4-H website. There's a wealth of information available there for all our project leaders and then also the youth if they want to just find out more about what that project entails and what the goals are to complete that project and so forth. As I said, we're going to focus on family community health. And sometimes you'll hear the term FCH if you're talking to an agent, because that is just the acronym that we use to shorten the mouthful of family and community health. So if you see that somewhere or, even in our presentation tonight, just know that that stands for family and community health. So we're going to look under food and nutrition this evening and talk about the food show, food challenge, and here we go, the FCH Quiz Bowl. And then we're going to move into fashion and interior design and talk about the Duds to Dazzle, fashion show, fashion storyboard, and then talk about Quilts of Valor, which can be a spin club. So you may be asking, what is a spin club? So a spin club would be a segment of a project, and it does fit under fashion and interior design, like a smaller group of kids that are in your fashion and interior design project, and maybe they just want to focus on that one area for a portion of their project time. And so Quilts of Valor would be a good project to do as a spin club, because then you can take those kids that just want to do quilting, learn how to do that sewing of the quilt and piecing, and then do a presentation to a veterans club or at a part of their project learning experience. And so tonight we have some speakers that are going to talk about not only our food and nutrition project, but the fashion interior design, and then also Quilts of Valor. So if you're not familiar with these, then this will give you a great overview on these projects and how you can incorporate them into your clubs. All right, so we're going to start off with 4-H food and nutrition, and I want to introduce Mandy Patrick. She is our FCH agent in Gregg County, and she's going to talk to us and share with us about the food show and food challenge, and a little bit touch on the quiz bowl. So Mandy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, while she's finding that flyer, just so you'll have something to look at while I speak, I do want to go over just a little bit about the Food Nutrition Project. This is a very popular project. If you know anyone that, I run into people all the time that have been in 4-H years ago. Maybe their kids are in 4-H now, and they almost always tell me that they participated with Food Show. The food show is getting a little bit of a makeover this year, so some improvements and some enhancements to the food show. So we'll go ahead and talk about that first. The overall project of food and nutrition can be a lot of different things. It can be, workshop based. It can be independent study. Um, you know, there can be tours and things like that that are included. Um, Participants in the Food and Nutrition Project are not required to participate with Food Show or Food Challenge, any of the contests necessarily. But you find that the kids, they get really excited and they are proud of the things that they've accomplished in the project. One thing I will point out about the Food and Nutrition Project is not only, especially if you go into the contest realm of it, it's not only about that food and nutrition knowledge, it's also a public speaking event. So there are some requirements there that, with Food Show, you're going to have to either be able to answer questions as maybe a junior or intermediate 4-H member. You're going to have to answer maybe a set of questions about how you create your dish. With seniors, they may be giving speeches for Food Show. And then with Food Challenge, of course, there's a team presentation where everyone speaks. So I like to go ahead and, let everybody know that there is that public speaking piece to food and nutrition that sometimes gets overlooked. And that can be another area of project work. My fantastic coworker, Arvita Scott, has some excellent resources for, um, you know, beefing up those public speaking skills. So don't gloss over that part of it. That is really important. But with Food Show, the members usually typically pick a recipe that follows a theme. And this is an independent project. The member usually creates their dish either at home or in a setting to share and have their knowledge, showcased in some way, either through judges' questions or a speech. It does revolve around a theme, and this year's 4-H Food Show theme is grocery games. So I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with some of the shows on the Food Network, but there is a show called Guys Grocery Games, I believe. This one is a little bit not quite as wild, maybe, but we are asking this year to find recipes that maybe source local foods and are kept to only $10 for that recipe. So some of the kids, depending on what they pick as the recipe, might have to get a little creative with sourcing some of their ingredients. And so we are encouraging, either to use coupons, use sales, farmers markets, and things like that to source ingredients. So as long as it follows, trying to find local food sources, and in some places your local food is just going to be what you can get at the grocery store, and we know that you may not have access to fancy specialty stores or anything like that, or a farmer's market. So it's perfectly fine if it just comes from the grocery store, but we will be asking them to stay under that $10 or at that $10 price point. This year, the dish categories, there are 4 categories, and they have recently changed. So our categories now will be appetizer, so that will be a category in itself, main dish, side dish, and then healthy dessert. So if any of you have participated in the past and we're familiar with some other categories. They are a little different this year. Of course, an appetizer, those they it can be almost anything. Same thing with the side dish, main dish, and healthy dessert. A couple changes this year and additions, not really a change, it's actually an addition to the food show, is there will be an opportunity for the member to showcase a skill. And so when we say showcase a skill, it could be just about anything that you could think of in the kitchen. So some examples in the food show memo, they gave some examples of measuring wet and dry ingredients, possibly, chopping something, maybe peeling a potato or a carrot, using a spiralizer, using some type of kitchen gadget, even if it's just a can opener. It could be just any kind of skill demonstration that goes along, and that'll be kind of something that they'll just find out about when they're there. So it's going to be kind of spur of the moment, but we're looking for some of those basic skills. And so this is the point where I would very much plug using the Food and Nutrition Explore Guide called Cooking in the Kitchen. It's excellent. I use it for a lot of programs, and it has some very detailed information on how to measure dry ingredients, how to measure wet ingredients. You'd be surprised how many people actually do that incorrectly. And goes into food safety. And then it also has a really great lesson on all the different kitchen tools and gadgets and things, and kind of explains what they all are and has pictures. So that's an excellent resource, and I believe will help very much with the members that want to do food show with the skill showcase. And then an extra edition, well, this year will also be, so the Knowledge Showcase is actually a new part of the food show, and that's going to be about a 10-question kind of little quiz that is given to the members after after they have their time in front of the judges. It'll be something that they can just complete either at a table or, in some format, maybe online or a link or something. We haven't quite got all that worked out yet, but it will be based on information that is readily available to 4-H members, typical things that we would expect you to possibly study to learn about food and nutrition. So there are some excellent handouts. There's My Plate resources, nutrients, there's all types of information on under the food and nutrition tab of the Texas 4-H website. Links to all of those things, with handouts and things like that to study. We do try to scale our skill demonstration, the knowledge questions. They will be scaled for the participant's age. So, if they're juniors, if they're at the very basic level of knowledge, we're going to ask them basic questions. But if they're an intermediate, they've been in the project a little bit longer, you could expect a little, just maybe a little bit more in depth. And then, as we move towards our seniors, we're looking for them to have more advanced knowledge to maybe be able to, be a little bit more efficient, especially in your skill demonstration, to be able to, take some information and maybe make a few leaps from, just what's written on the page, maybe draw some conclusions and things like that. So, you just want to, we're constantly trying to challenge the members to grow their project, to learn new skills and apply them, and then keep building on that knowledge. And y'all know, everybody here, either your stomach's growling or you just fed it. So, because it's about that time, almost everyone loves to eat or likes something about food, and cooking is an essential skill. So as you can see on the handout there's a little overview. Like I said, with food show this year, we're kind of sticking on the $10 price point. Moving on to the food challenge, which is actually a team event. You would have a team of 3 to 4 individuals working together under a 40-minute time limit. So it's It's something that you would have to, the kids have to work together in that 40-minute time limit. They create a dish. They're provided with a key ingredient, which is usually maybe just one item. So it could be pasta. They're provided that in a bag or something like that. And then they have the opportunity to go to a grocery store, quote unquote, a grocery store in the competition room, which might just be a table with a lot of produce and things on there. But they're able to go and at least buy 2 or more items to complement that key ingredient. And then they create that dish from scratch. In that 40-minute time limit, that also includes creating a presentation in which all the members, participate in that presentation. So that one is really fun. It can be a little chaotic, but it is a lot of fun. The kids have a lot of fun working together. There's some stress that goes on. There's some arguments sometimes, but it's really about teamwork, because that team has to be able to listen to each other and work together to discuss and come up with this final dish and agree on the cooking techniques, and then also what they're going to say in their presentation. They are judged on not only that presentation, but also their preparation, how they work together. And they follow the same categories. So the teams do get assigned to a food category. So one team may get appetizers, one may get main dish, one may get side dish, one may get healthy dessert. And their key ingredient will reflect that assigned category that they're in. They will not know ahead of time what category that they are put into. This year, we're getting to add some things. So there's a supply box. If you haven't done this project before, there's basically a kitchen in a box that the team is required to supply. A lot of times it's a big Rubbermaid type container with all types of cooking implements in there. You're going to have all your basics. You're going to have all your measuring cups and spoons, can opener, vegetable peeler, bowls, knives, cutting boards, you name it. There are a lot of moving parts to a food challenge supply box. There are some appliances that are required for that. So a double burner and an electric skillet are on the supply list. I know a lot of teams, I have teams here in Gregg County, they don't always have the entire full supply box for practices and things like that, because those appliances are a little more costly. So sometimes they practice with a more pared down box, and that's perfectly fine for practices. And then, a pared down box can run about $50. And that's if you shop at the Dollar Tree and Walmart and things like that, and find some, affordable. These aren't going to be, culinary grade kitchen appliances or kitchen tools and things like that. A lot of times it's going to be the extras that maybe you have sitting around. I always tell people, if you have grandparents, if you have aunts and uncles and things like that, chances are somebody doesn't cook as much as they used to, and they may have an entire kitchen full of supplies that they would loan you. So there are ways to offset some of the costs of the supply boxes, and you can get kind of creative with that. All the members can chip in together and create a box. And then, like I said, if you share some of those items, if you buy a fully stocked brand new box, everything in there, it's going to be about $100, just because those double burners and the electric skillets are $20 or $30 a piece. That's where the bulk of the cost comes from. But other items, pencils and pencils and paper towels and things like that are usually fairly easy to find, unless we're in a pandemic, and you can't find things like Clorox wipes, which is something that does go into those boxes. So we may have to get a little creative with that later on in the year. We'll see how all that shakes out. But there is an Explore guide that goes over the food challenge, so it kind of talks about some of those things. If it sounds like it's too much to get into, I encourage you to download that food challenge, the Food and Nutrition Explore guide for food challenge, and just kind of read through it and see, what all those things are there. Um, what's nice this year, there are some pantry items that are added to the supply boxes. So things like salt and pepper and oil and chicken bouillon, looks like a medium onion, a couple of cans of either vegetables or fruit. So you could have um, black beans and corn, or you could have pineapple and peaches. You could just pick anything you wanted, and then rice or pasta. So the team can choose between putting some of those pantry staples in the box and having those, and those do not count against them in their creation of their dish. So those are just some extra supplies they would have, and then they can really focus on that key ingredient and maybe a couple more ingredients from the grocery store choosings there at the contest. These programs, it does take a little bit of planning. I always highly recommend for members to read recipes and maybe even blank out the top of the recipe, the name of it, the title of it, and take away the pictures and just let them read recipes about, and ingredient lists, and let them form opinions about, hey, what do we, and take away even the instructions. I mean, just strictly an ingredient list. And it can be out of magazines, it can be out of recipe books, it can be wherever. But the more you read and you're familiar with what ingredients go together to make things, the more successful the teams are. So that's just a little nugget there that I've found over the years that has helped some of my teams do very well. And then finally, because there's just a ton to cover, and we can't talk about it all, but I do want to just mention real quickly about the Family and Community Health, or the FCH Quiz Bowl. That's a really fun game. It's kind of like a Jeopardy style, where the team members have buzzers to buzz in on questions. And so there's a moderator, but they have chances to buzz in and answer questions, and the teams go back and forth and acquire points based on their correct answers. And there are study guide materials. There is a lot of information on the Texas 4-H Food Nutrition website. There's a section there for the Family and Community Health Quiz Bowl, and there's a study guide. There are some books associated with that before you go forming a team and going and purchasing all that things, always check with your county agent, because a lot of the agents have some of those resources in their office, and they would be happy to check it out to you. But the questions that they're going to answer are things like, just basic nutrition, food safety, food preparation. And then it really does go into questions of health. How does food and food safety impact our health? And so there are some questions in that realm as well. The members that participate in all of these projects, you'll find that they feed each other. The projects kind of feed off each other. The members in Food Challenge, they get really good at finding nutrition facts and information really quickly because they're on a time crunch. And then that just enhances their food show preparation and knowledge. And then it also enhances those that participate with the health or the FCH Quiz Bowl. Just a last couple things I'll say, because this is a very complex, it can be a very complex project. It can be a lot to jump into. So if it's something that you're interested in, definitely communicate with your agent, your county agent. Keep an eye out for newsletters and emails and things, highlighting workshops and things that are coming. And don't feel like you can't, as an adult, that you can't come to a workshop and find out. I mean, sometimes you find out just as much as, your kids do on how some of these contests and projects and everything work when you kind of see it at a more, maybe kind of broken down from either the agent. Not every agent conducts workshops in every county. So sometimes there is a club leader or a project leader or a volunteer that does conduct those. So just make sure you find out who that go-to person is, and don't be afraid to email and call, because we're here to answer your questions. And if you can't find anybody else, call me. I'll answer your questions.
So Mandy, would you say that the food challenge project is similar to Chopped, the junior Chopped program?
Yes, it is very similar because, if you ever watch Junior Chopped, you see they get the basket of ingredients and they're creating things on the fly. Of course, it's very dramatic. It can get a little dramatic in 4-H Food Challenge too. The difference is with 4-H Food Challenge, you'll be working on a team. So you'll have at least 2 or 3 other people, because the team is 3 to 4 individuals. And so you always have, somebody to, kind of bounce ideas off of. And communication and being able to get along and listen to team members is a very, very important thing to keep in mind when you're forming teams. Not everybody can get along, and it shows sometimes at competition. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind as you're assembling friends and things like that to work together as a challenge team, because it can get, it gets, and literally gets a little dicey in there, because they've got knives, they've got things going on. That 40 minutes goes by in a flash. And so sometimes they do get a little carried away. So it's definitely, you want to have some adult supervision with that. But I'll say that the kids that participate, they're just grinning ear to ear the whole time. They're having a really good time.
So we're going to switch gears a little bit and move on to the fashion interior design project. And I'm going to talk about a few of the projects, and then I'm going to be joined by Felicia Thompson. She's the county agent for FCH in Shelby County, and she's going to talk about Quilts of Valor. Okay, so here's the little overview on the fashion and interior design project. And we're going to talk about Duds to Dazzle, fashion show, our fashion storyboard, and then, as I said, Quilts of Valor. So on our fashion interior design project, there's actually more projects than what I have listed, but this is just a little snippet of what we're going to look at tonight, because there are definitely some interior design activities that the kids can be involved in if they enjoy decorating or arranging furniture in a house and making it look pretty and utilizing the color. In this project, you learn skills that you can use lifelong. And some of those skills that you would learn would be machine and hand sewing, learning to consumer shop and compare prices and look at colors, and make those wise decisions when you're purchasing maybe some of those larger items, such as furniture, appliances, and so forth. Also, you learn to design and construct clothing. And so, depending on which of these projects you're involved in, you would participate in those different types of activities. Also, we focus, and this is one of the areas in Duds to Dazzle, is creating environmentally friendly projects that the kids can use, or through recycling, reuse or repurpose a garment and things like that, or an item. And then learn about personal style and care. So there's a lot of different skills that a child would learn by participating in this project. So let's talk about a little bit about Duds to Dazzle. So that is a team project in which 3 to 5 kids work together, similar to Food Challenge. They have a supply box. In their supply box, they're going to have things such as a sewing machine, an iron, maybe some arts and craft pencils, and other items that they would need to construct a garment, or maybe even an item for their home. So this supply box usually runs around Oh, probably about $50. But if you have, of course, higher grade quality, like your sewing machine and your iron, rotary cutters and things like that, well, then your box can top somewhere around $100 for that, for those items. So like Mandy was saying on the food challenge, these can be items that are borrowed from the home. And so that way they're not just sitting in a box and waiting for the next year's contest, but then they can be utilized, back in the house and then utilized at contest also. So that helps to keep the cost down when putting together your supply box. So on the Duds to Dazzle, the kids practice as a team, and then they also compete, and usually there's a contest at county, there is one at district, and also at the state level. And so what they'll do is they will have their team, they bring their supply box, and they're given an item. So for instance, they might be given a shower curtain, and then they have a clue to what they need to construct out of that shower curtain. And it could be a garment, which would be really interesting out of a shower curtain, but they can create, a clue that has to create something for a human to wear. It could be something for as a decor item. It might be something for a pet to wear. And it could even be something along the lines as an accessory, such as jewelry or maybe a purse or something along those lines. So the kids work as a team, and they have to, come up with their ideas, put those in their sketch pad, and that's another item that's in their supply box, and design what they're going to create. And so they'll showcase what it started as, and then how it was repurposed into a new item utilizing their clue. Also, at this contest at Duds to Dazzle, they have what is called a supply closet that is open to all the participants. And there's a variety of items in the supply closet that they can choose from to help embellish or make that item maybe more pleasing or put together and things like that. So they're in the supply closet. There's going to be additional fabrics, zippers, buttons, glittery things that they could glue on their item and so forth. So just different things that they can add to their key item that they received in order to make it a better finished product. So after they create their item, then just like in food challenge, they would work together to come up with their presentation, in which all the team members have a portion of speaking, and they're going to talk about, how what their design inspiration was, what the original item was before they reconstructed it, and then what the finished product is, what the approximate price would be to purchase that item, and the steps they went through to create that design and that item for showing. They're given 60 minutes to do this, and that also, within that time frame, they also utilize part of it for their cleanup. And so they have to balance that time very well so that they have plenty of time to do all the design, the creation, the cleanup, and the presentation. It's a fun activity for the kids to work in. It really stretches them as far as getting them outside the box and think about recycling, repurposing. What can I do with this besides throw it away? And so they come up with some unbelievable, wonderful designs and things that you would not even think of. And so it's really nice to see the creations that they can develop by working as a team. So switching gears a little bit to fashion show, and I'm sure you've all had an opportunity at some time to see a fashion show, whether on television or in person. But this is a wonderful time for the kids to either construct or to showcase an item from fashion that they have purchased. So there's two categories, and this is also an individual project, and so the kids are working independently by themselves on this, and they can either buy, as I said, buy an outfit that they want to wear and show, and talk about that item that they've purchased and why they made that selection, what it cost, what the fabric is constructed of, and answer other questions such as why they would be purchasing that outfit, and where would they wear it to normally. So that's one component of the fashion show. The other is the construction, and the construction kind of just takes that a little step further. So instead of purchasing an outfit to model and showcase, they actually sew and make an outfit that they wear. And so this is a great way to demonstrate skills learned on using a sewing machine or hand stitching. But the kids actually create some beautiful garments from learning how to do so and utilize those skills that they learn from sewing and reading patterns and selecting fabrics based on color and quality and so forth. So what they'll do is they have their outfit, whether it's constructed or bought, and they'll have a time that they answer questions in front of a judge, and about the outfit, the cost, as I said, and the fabrics that were involved, and the type of outfit. And there's categories such as evening wear, sports wear, your daily wear, and so forth. So there's a variety of areas that they can choose to either construct or buy an outfit around. So after they do their interview with the judge, and all the youth that have entered in this contest have done their judging, then they have an opportunity to actually wear and show that outfit on the runway. So we have it so that they at a location where there's a stage, and the kids get to walk the runway to some nice music, and just kind of showcase their skills in modeling also. So it's a really great opportunity, well-rounded, that the kids can not only just sew, but they can also show what they've made. Another component to fashion show is the natural fibers aspect, and that is an additional component. If they would like to participate in that, they can. And so that is to showcase outfits that are either made from wool or mohair. And so if they use those types of fabrics, then that would be a great opportunity to not only just enter the fashion show, but enter the judging in those areas, those particular fabric areas too. Okay, and then looking at our next contest and project area is going to be our fashion storyboard. So this is how it gets started with your storyboard. So every item that's created in fashion starts with a design. So your fashion designers, they have to put on paper what they're going to make. It's not just a matter of just getting out some fabric and starting to cut it and then sew it together. They actually lay it all out on what are called flats. And these flats are the design of that item. So on this flat or this storyboard, you'll be able to see what the item is that was created, also what fabrics were selected. Maybe you have a theme to select around fall, just using that as an example, but perhaps you would choose some fabrics that highlighted those fall colors, like maybe oranges and yellows and browns and things like that. And so you would have a sample of those fabrics on your board, a drawing of your design, and then what the finished product looks like. And those are just pictures. So the storyboard is a great way to take, starting from fabric and moving all the way to a finished project and showing the steps that you took to design that item. So it basically tells a story of what that designer's idea was for that creation. And so with Storyboard, There is not an interview portion or questions to be answered in front of a judge. The storyboard is presented at contest, and then they're judged. I know it started last year. They had storyboards that went on to state, and they were submitted digitally instead of the hard copy of the storyboard. So that's something that we're looking at from a district level too, and would hope that we would have more participation by allowing those to be digitally submitted instead of in person to be presented. So great activity for kids that are kind of artsy crafty, that like those hands-on building things from start to finish and so forth. So as far as your costs go for the fashion projects, of course, a lot of it depends on the fabrics that are used. And, fabrics can go anywhere from $3 and up, and sometimes as much as $12. So, this is also a great opportunity for the kids to learn how to select fabrics that have that quality, but maybe don't cost as much. Or maybe they can select a fabric that is similar to that high dollar fabric, but it would substitute just fine for the project they're working on. So they'll also need a sewing machine, and this does not have to be a high dollar, $1,000 machine, anything like that. You can actually buy a very nice Brother sewing machine. I consider those like your student sewing machines from Walmart for around $80. And they work wonderfully. We use those in the county I was at for a number of years because they could definitely take a beating and still keep on sewing. So don't cut those out. Those are really good. Also, the project members will need a rotary cutting tool and a cutting board to cut their fabric on. That way it's completely straight. If you cut like I do with scissors, you know how that goes. Sometimes not always as straight as you want it to be. So those rotary cutting tools are a great addition to any designer or sewer's toolbox for sure. And then, of course, you need an iron because fabric always needs to be ironed to make it look very nice. So there's also different supplies that are needed if you're going to work with fabrics and sewing, like quilts. And so I'm going to let Felicia talk about that in just a moment. And then lastly on Storyboard, if it's going to be a hard copy storyboard, you're going to need a tri-fold board. And those do not cost very much. You can purchase those at Hobby Lobby, Walmart, and they're just the cardboard fold-out boards that are typically used for like displaying a science project or something along those lines. So fun project. Lots of opportunities for those kids who like to design and showcase and work in the fashion industry and have those goals in mind. So I'm going to let Felicia talk about Quilts of Valor, and then we'll come back and see if anybody has any questions.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Felicia Thompson. I'm the Family and Community Health Agent here in Shelby County. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Quilts of Valor, which is considered a spin club in 4-H. Just a little history for Quilts of Valor. It was started back in 2003 by a mother. Her son was deployed to Iraq, and she started the movement for Quilts of Valor. So it's actually a nonprofit organization now. And since that organization was started, they have issued over 181,000 quilts to veterans all over the United States. Quilts of Valor, it's like a lifetime achievement award, a token of appreciation that says thank you for the service and sacrifice that the veterans have given back to their country. In 4-H, it makes connections with the youth and the seniors. It also makes connections with the volunteers. It helps the youth understand things better when they see that kind of stuff going on, then that helps them to have a better understanding. And it's under the sewing the fashion project. Here in Shelby County, we have a Sewing Sensation project where we partner with the VFW Post, and it helps to touch the life of that veteran. It kind of makes them feel special. So in Shelby County, we have over 400 veterans. Like I said, we have a Sewing Sensation program where we usually have a sewing program throughout the summer. And the kids, that's kind of a beginner program for the children. But the ones in Quilts of Valor have been in that program several years, so they're pretty familiar with sewing and material and cutting and doing all of those things. They meet once a month to piece the front of a quilt, and the quilts are usually red, white, and blue. We have some awesome volunteers here in Shelby County. We have a professional quilter that actually leads the project, and so she finishes the quilt and quilts it and binds it and all that good stuff. We received nominations to recognize the veteran through the Extension Office, and that's also where we partner with the local VFW and the Shelby County Veterans Office to get names of veterans in the county. If they're doing like a program for Memorial Day or Labor Day, then we participate in that program sometimes, and we do a presentation to a veteran that they have nominated at that program. We've also partnered with a local nursing home to honor the veterans in that nursing home. We have presented approximately 15 quilts to the veterans, and we have approximately about 20 quilts ready right now to present to the different veterans. So during the ceremony, our 4-H member reads the information about the veteran, and in that information, it tells where they served, the missions, and the awards that they received. The quilt is then wrapped around the veteran, and they are thanked for their service. The cost, here in Shelby County, we have local civic clubs that sponsor quilts. So there has not actually been a cost for us, because if you have a sewing program already, you pretty much already have the sewing machine and the rotary cutter. You just have to purchase the red, white, and blue material. So we've had civic groups here that have sponsored quilts that have bought material. We still have lots of material, and we just received a large donation from one of our local groups here in the last couple of months. So there has been no cost. The quilts, they're designed all different ways, but it's all red, white, and blue. And the girls, they actually have a good time, and they love doing it.
Okay, thank you, Felicia, so much for sharing about the Quilts of Valor program. This is probably one of my favorite pictures that was taken when a presentation was made for Quilts of Valor. You could see this former soldier. He's in his uniform, and he was so touched by the presentation. I mean, you can't really see in this photograph, but tears were just rolling down his face the whole time. The young lady was reading off his accommodations and how he had served his country and the different wars that have gone on. And, you know, he just felt so honored that somebody hadn't forgotten what he had done. You know, he had put his life at risk for freedom. And so it was just so beautiful. And so, you know, this is an excellent way, like Felicia said, to connect your 4-H members with maybe the older adults in your community and those veterans. They love to be remembered. Okay, so I'm going to, go back just a minute because I apologize. Just going back a little bit on some examples of what the projects look like in the fashion area. So here's an example of a storyboard, and you can see the 4-H member that created it has a hand-drawn picture of, it looks like some pants that they're constructing, what the shirt would look like, and then her colored in with the art pencils design, and then the final project and what it looked like actually when it was constructed and made from fabric. She's also included some swatches of her fabric to the left, and it looks like some buttons and so forth. So you can kind of see what the whole storyboard would look like. Now there's different themes that are given with these storyboards. So on this year, the theme looked like it was retro fashion. And so this is what the child came up with as their design. So there's a, different theme every year that the kids use as their inspiration to come up with their flats and their design. And here's just a quick picture from a 4-H fashion show. These 4-H members entered the evening wear category, and they're all showcasing their items. I'm not sure if they constructed these or if they bought them, but they're having a good time up on that stage showing what they had selected for sure. And then lastly, here's a picture of Duds to Dazzle. And you can see team members working around a table. Looks like they're working with some green fabric, and you can see their supply box sitting right there to the right of them, and their sewing machine, and they're busy at work constructing a new item. All right, well, thank you. I'm going to go right back to this PowerPoint and show you how, if you've got questions, you can contact us. We definitely want to say thank you for your willingness to be a project leader and or get a project started in your county that maybe it's a new area for you, but we appreciate all you do for 4-H and helping to grow our kids into leaders and help them become successful in their project areas. So if you have questions in the future, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email me or you can call me. This is my phone number at the district office, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And remember, you can also look on the 4-H website. And
I'll just add that with the food show, food show, food challenge, and quiz bowl, those are usually county. You do have a county qualifier, and then you go on to district, and then again, it's the senior level that go on to state roundup. So those are qualifying events. And then as far as community service for food and or fashion, some things, obviously hosting a canned food drive. But in, we've had 4-H members that acted as servers for events. So if you had a veterans recognition program or something, right now with COVID, you may not be having as many dinners or, banquets and things like that, but that's a really good one for the kids to participate with, to be a server or just to help clean up after banquets. We've had kids clean the food bank, the food pantry, those freezers. They need attention sometimes, and those right now, especially the food pantries and food banks, are being used at a very high rate. So I'm sure they don't have a lot of time to spend on cleaning and things like that, and having those extra hands of the 4-H members to help clean shelves and organize and do that is appreciated. Fashion, we've done coat drives, we've donated items, socks, collected socks, collected hats and toiletries and things like that for homeless shelter. Really, the sky's the limit on, what you can just come up with all kinds of things. The biggest thing is just ask around and see what the needs are in your community. Call up a few people and say, hey, if you had 20 extra hands to help you on a Saturday, what could they do? And you might be surprised at some of the answers you get. Some things that we think would just be so basic that people don't really need, could make such a big difference at a nursing home, or like I said, at a food pantry, or even just a church that has a closet for a burn, folks that are what do they call it, when they've had a house fire and need things. And so that's there's always the needs in your community, and staying local. I think that's one of the biggest and best things that 4-H can do, is to provide those services in your local community and help our neighbors, help the people we're with every day.
Thank you, Mandy. Those are some excellent points. And that is something 4-H always brings into the projects, is service. So service is always tied into whether it's a livestock project, natural resources, or family community health. Every project has a service component to it, because we want to teach the kids to give back to their communities and how important that is to help somebody in need. So thank you, Mandy. I appreciate that. If there's not any other further questions, then we're going to close out this session. And our next topic will be held next Monday, the 28th, from 6 to 7:30. And we're going to be talking about leadership projects. So another area in 4-H, and we're going to have a guest speaker that's going to be talking about different projects that tie into the leadership component. So you'll want to be sure and tune into that. I'll send a link just like I did today to you, so you can participate in that session next Monday. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening, and I hope you have a nice rest of your evening, and I hope to see you next Monday.